Welcome to Let's Talk Common Sense. Today we've got a treat for you. We've got a special guest. I went on your website and it says you're a writer. Now, that's obviously self-explanatory, but I thought you must be so much more. So I thought I'd give you a chance to explain a bit about what you actually do. So I know you're a writer, but for people who are just getting introduced to Nikesh, what else do you do?
I'm a writer.
I thought you'd do that.
Yeah, what am I? I'm an idiot. No, I've written 3 novels for adults, a novel for teenagers. I have edited a couple of anthologies, and I edit a journal for people of colour as well.
Yeah.
I do a lot of mentoring, and I read a lot.
So you are a writer then, through and through.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I guess in recent years, people have been like referring to me as like a diversity activist champion,
Okay.
and I always feel really uncomfortable with that because I'm just asking for better representation for people from diverse backgrounds in books, which is kind of like the bare minimum. So I'm not even asking for a lot, you know. So yeah, and also I think that when you do all that work, it distracts you and it distracts people from the work that you're meant to be doing, which is to be a writer. Like, I'd much rather just be a writer. You know, I do all this diversity work, and it's great, and I get a lot from it, and it's great to see that the industry is changing in certain ways, but I'm inherently lazy, and I'd much rather be sitting at home watching season 4 of Better Call Saul on Netflix. And yeah, I find myself like doing loads of diversity campaign work, and like, I wouldn't even call it activism because it's just like it's books, you know. It's not like the sharp end of activism work. But it is like the bare minimum that I would expect of most people. So the fact that I do it, I think that people find it makes them forget that I write as well. So that's why I just like to go, I'm a writer. I write books.
For anyone who's forgotten.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've not just written a novel, you've also written, or you've edited a collection of 20-odd essays as well. So is it mainly kind of, because I guess most writers probably kind of put themselves in one lane, don't they? They say I do essays or I do, novels, but you do quite a few different things.
Yeah, so I'm predominantly a fiction writer, I guess a comedy fiction writer. I write comedy fiction about social issue stuff.
Yeah.
But in 2016, I edited a collection of essays called The Good Immigrant, which came out, and it was huge. It still is huge. It's still doing loads and loads of amazing things in lots of different spaces, and it's been completely life-changing, and I love it. But it kind of all happened by accident. I was doing all this sort of like advocacy for diversity in publishing, and I just found that I was just whining on Twitter, and I felt like I was becoming, that meme of Grandpa Simpson where it goes like old man yells at cloud. I didn't want to keep being that guy, and I just thought, what can I do that is actually proactive and a thing, and not just someone whining on Twitter, because it's really easy for people to dismiss you or mute you or ignore you when you're just whining on Twitter. And I thought, like, what can I do that's actually real? And so I put together this collection of essays, and it blew up, partly because people were tired of like constantly having that conversation around diversity in publishing. When I first started talking about it, there were already people in like a generation that had come before me who were like, look, we just can't keep doing this. So it's now up to you guys. And so I took on the baton, and like at some point I want to relinquish it and hand it off to someone else. But also the thing that you're kind of fighting for is that you hand the baton and then it drops to the ground because you don't because you don't need it anymore, because that's the ultimate goal, right? So like The Good Immigrant came out, but it also came out at a time when the far right and Nigel Farage and the Tory party were fanning the flames of immigrant hate in the run up to the referendum, and so like the referendum was happening, and then lots and lots of proof copies of a book called The Good Immigrant were landing
Yeah.
on like reviewers' desks, and it was just sort of randomly happened in kind of a synchronous way and helped it to blow up. But it's been.
Well, the beautiful thing is we're going to talk about all those different things, especially the Tory party, immigration, Nigel Farage, and now we can't get away from him. We're going to talk about him for a bit as well. But before we get there, where's the common sense? I mean, with this kind of podcast and web series, we invite people to kind of go back and forth over issues. So we will do that. But I just thought we would start with something really, really important, just to kind of get kind of set the tone, as it were. And the question is simple: if you were a pigeon, who would you poo on?
Oh my god. My shit's too good for Nigel Farage's stupid face. I'm convinced he is Shaitan. I'm convinced he is a demon.
Right. Allegedly.
Sue me. Come for me, Nigel Farage, because the onus would be on. Oh no! Wait, hold on. Oh wait, hold on. I did a law degree like half my life ago. I need to remember. Like, there was a case. Stephen Burkoff, the actor, took a newspaper to court because they said he was ugly.
Yeah. And
I think the onus was on him to prove he wasn't ugly, or I can't remember. Either the onus was on him to prove that he's not ugly, or the onus was on the newspaper to prove that he was ugly. Either way, if Nigel Farage doesn't like being called a demon and wants to take me to court, then I'd have to prove that he is a demon, and that would lead us into a weird theological thing. When ultimately, I just want to rip off his face and expose, the bit in the first Captain America film where the Red Skull exposes his face. That's what it'd be like.
So you kind of haven't answered the question. You say you wouldn't use your poo because it's too special.
Isn't bird poo landing on someone's shoulder isn't that good luck?
A couple of people said that. I don't know where they got that from, but
I would like to poo on Diane Abbott and wish her luck.
Right. I'm sure that's good. There's good news there. That's good news there.
When you say it out loud, it suddenly sounds like I want to poo on Diane Abbott, which is not what I mean, because I really respect her. But if
it's a good omen,
if bird poo is a symbol of good luck, then I would like to poop on her. I just wanted to keep doing this amazing stuff that she's doing, and also maybe show some leadership of the Labour Party. Sue me.
Right. Well, we're going straight there. Let's get political then, shall we?
Oh God. Please can we not?
Okay.
So hold on. I wouldn't poo on anyone that I respect. God.
Okay, you gotta use the right. You gotta say the allegedly. You gotta say the.
I pooed in the wrong toilet.
Well, let's talk some common sense. We know some people may be living under a rock, but we know that one of the biggest things facing this country right now is Brexit. How it's going to change the landscape, or the political landscape is changing already, but it's also going to have a pretty big effect on millennials, which are the majority of our readers. And I guess what I want to ask you about, so you're someone who's written quite a bit about immigration, The Good Immigrant, but also essays and other work you've done. And I guess my question is, what do you think about the immigration debate in the kind of view of Brexit?
What is a Brexit?
So Brexit means Brexit. That never gets old. I mean, so we're leaving the European Union. That's what we know as it stands right now. And of course, up in the country.
Do we know anything? I feel like Brexit is the ultimate Groundhog Day, where I feel like every day I wake up and it feels like it's day one of negotiations or something. Do you know what I mean? So I think there were certain factions in the Leave campaign who fanned the fires of the sort of sleeper cell racism of Middle England, and was basically whipped up all this sort of immigration hate, and it has become toxic. You look at the stats and the spike in hate crimes. You look at something is happening where, you know, look, I feel like the word immigrant is sort of bandied around like a slur these days almost. You know, like the kind of what the word means has changed, and like, you know, you think about the sort of our ability to, or the freedom to move, right? The freedom of movement.
Yeah.
And you think that like people move places for all manner of reasons. They move because of war. They move because they're safer where they are. They move for like slightly more selfish reasons, like, you know, I can find a job here, or like I'm going to be nearer my family, or I like the culture here, like, and that's what we say about expats. I mean, that's what we say about people who like go and live in the Algarve because they like the sun. You know, maybe people like the shitty weather in the UK. I don't know, but people move for all manner of reasons, and I don't think it's up to anyone to cast aspersions on the reasons people move. Right?
Yeah.
You know, the freedom to move, I feel, you know, in a globalized society is, you know, it should be a right, and I feel like that's about to be taken away.
But I guess if Nigel Farage, who you spoke about earlier, was sitting here, what you might say is, well, hold on, all we are advocating for is controlled immigration. I mean, surely you believe in controlled immigration.
Well, what does controlled immigration mean?
So he would say setting targets, maybe having kind of numbers. You say, okay, this is when it's too much, this is when it's too little. Maybe having immigration not just from the EU, but also immigration from across the world. Like, I mean, there's lots of different things he would say.
But I feel like that's what we already have. And the thing is, like, the statistics show that immigration adds to the economy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a myth that immigrants are draining our resources. And the thing that Theresa May has announced recently about, you know, they want to like put sort of a salary bands and like a certain set of skills and all the rest of it. I think all this stuff kind of fosters the good immigrant, bad immigrant rhetoric, and it goes, we will take your doctors and we will take your like sports stars and we'll take your actors, and it kind of creates divisions within immigrant communities, because people then are like, you know, how many people earn over £50,000 a year? Like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you're taking people from a certain salary band, I think you're kind of increasing like the potential of sort of immigrants from a certain sort of class strata coming in, and I don't think that feels, well, that just doesn't feel right to me. I feel like it's excluding, and it's excluding of people's right to move around.
Well, you wrote the good immigrant, didn't you? And what I wondered was, what's the central message of that? And I guess in view of Brexit, how does it apply to Brexit?
Well, okay, so it's hard to kind of retroactively apply like some meaning to the book that wasn't there when we kind of conceived of it. So like, it was conceived as a project to kind of help diversify publishing and make publishing more inclusive. But I guess the central message in the book is, you know, it's very powerful to see yourself. You know, books can be mirrors and they can be windows. And so much of when we talk about immigrants, there's sort of like, there is this othering that happens, and you never get to hear from people from immigrant backgrounds in their own voices, telling their own stories. And so the book for me was just giving space to a bunch of writers who wanted to tell me a story, whether that be about immigration or racism or representation, or what it's like for them to travel through airports, or what it was like when their mum died, or issues to do with caste and class and all the rest of it. And so I feel like the central message is we can't have a healthy debate or talk about immigration, Nigel Farage, without you hearing from the mouth of the people you're demonising or othering. So, you know, I think it's very easy for people to kind of talk about immigrants in the same way that they talk about like carts and carts of bananas, or like what's the thing that's traded, like Primark t-shirts, like their products.
Yeah,
or
commodifies them.
Yeah,
Almost,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to give a few people some voices, in the hope that those voices would then amplify and inspire other people to tell their stories. And I feel like it's part of like a bigger whole at the moment. Like, so you've seen books like that, and Reniero Lodge's book, and the Know Your Place anthology, and Nasty Women, and like sites like Galdem and Media Diversified, and all the rest of it. And you're starting to I think The Good Immigrant is just one of like this massive things that is kind of giving voice to the disenfranchised and giving voice to the marginalised to tell their stories and to speak their truths in their own voices. And that's so powerful, because there'll be like some kid at home going, I want to say all this stuff, or I'm thinking all this stuff and I just don't feel comfortable voicing it because of like my environment, or because I'm the only one in my village, or what have you. And so I'm hoping that the book was an act of empathy towards other young people of colour. When I was like 14 years old, I remember picking up The Bitter Suburbia by Hanif Qureshi and reading the opening lines of that in my school, my library in my hometown. And the opening lines of it are, my name is Kareem Amir and I'm an Englishman through and through, almost. And that one word, almost, completely changed my life, because up until then I'd never seen something written down that spoke back to me my experience, because I was an almost. I went to a predominantly white school where I felt othered because I wasn't rich and white, and I wasn't desi enough to hang out with the brown kids, and so I was sort of in between. I was almost at every turn, and that book was like a massive moment of empathy for me, where I suddenly felt like I belonged somewhere and someone could tell my story and put me on the cover and go, this is you. And that's what I want The Good Immigrant to be, and that's what I want my work to be. And I said it before, like, and I think it's a Mallory Blackman quote, that books can be windows and they can be mirrors. And I really, really believe that, because I had that mirror once, and it completely changed my life. And I really want The Good Immigrant to be that. And so, like, I don't expect people like Nigel Farage to necessarily read it and go, aha, I suddenly feel empathy towards people from immigrant backgrounds. But I imagine that some young brown or black kid might read it and go, this makes me feel like I belong in this society, and I feel like there's a stake in it, and I'm going to stand up for a vision of Britain going forward that includes me and makes me part of it. And so hopefully, like, that book helps to kind of create future leaders and future people who are like really, really actively going to fight for the future of this country, because I'll be long dead. I eat too much processed sugar.
Jamie Oliver, I'm sure, has some things to say about that. So
but Jamie Oliver also said that he thought UKIP was pucker. So what do we care about what he thinks?
I guess one thing I want to ask you, so Dame Louise Casey is probably someone who shares your concern for how we, I guess, get a multicultural Britain more integrated, as it were. We know that London is 40% non-white, so in London, more than other places, is a really metropolitan hub where you get lots of different ethnicities, races, cultures, and so forth. I guess one question I have for you then is, how do we, so what she suggested, by the way, is that everyone should learn English. She said if everyone learns English, that would help heal the kind of rifts and divides we see between these different kind of cultures. As someone who, perhaps not because you want to, but has been kind of branded as a diversity champion, as you said at the start, what kind of advice would you have for Dame Louise? I mean, do you agree with her, or do you think there's another kind of route you should take?
Oh yeah, I think that's one route. But I also think that, like, so the subjects that I was best at school were modern languages. So I learned French and I learned German, and I feel like that made me feel more global, and I've noticed that there's less importance on people learning other languages in school now. There's much more pressure on people to learn maths, and fine, maths is kind of important, but not all kids have aptitude for maths, and so while it would be important for everyone to learn English, what if this was a school in Bradford where the majority of kids were Bengali, why wouldn't you do a Bengali GCSE and get all of the kids to learn Bengali? That's an act of empathy towards those kids who are they're learning English and all the rest of it, but they still have to talk Bengali at home, and they still relate to their friends and family in Bengali. I feel like more of a focus on learning different languages and learning about different cultures, and the curriculum having a much more solid interrogation of colonialism and the effects of it, and also I think we need to think long and hard about what it is to be British and what it is to be British now. People in year 7 are taught what British values are, and British values are respect for belief in democracy and the rule of law, and mutual respect for people's mutual respect and tolerance for people's beliefs and faiths, or absence of them. And those are really, really basic things. And not even Boris Johnson could hold his hand up to a year 7 level of British values. Yeah. And you think about what those British values are, and you think, those are pretty basic. I stand by those. But I think that there is a degree to which we need to have a very serious conversation about what it is to be British, because you've got factions who are fighting to reclaim British, the idea of being British for white people, and you've got certain factions going, I was born here but my parents are from somewhere, I'm a third culture kid, but the majority of me feels British. I was there during the 2012 Olympics, man. But so I think that the thing that can bring those people together is a really honest conversation about what it is to be British. And if we are going to leave the European Union, then my God, now more than ever is the time to have that conversation, because otherwise we'll leave the European Union as a nation as divided as we are now, where it's sickening to constantly hear about leave one, we're respecting the will of the people, and people forget how close it was. The rhetoric neglects to remind us how close it was, and so 52%, Theresa May constantly is the British people voted for, and she's very willful in neglecting to say that half of the people who voted, which was, I can't even remember the statistics, what was it, 2/3 or something like that? Something like that. 2/3 of people voted, and half of the people who voted.
It's crazy. I mean, I know you have to go somewhere else, so I just want to do something with you that we do every guest, which is 3 and 10. And essentially, what it is you have 10 seconds to give us 3 different things. That's a really bad explanation. What I'm going to do is...
What, around the room?
No. So I'll give you a question. You're just going to give us... So you got 10 seconds to name 3 things, and I'll give you the 3 things you have to name. So the first thing is your 3 favourite books. You have 10 seconds.
The Buddha of Suburbia, God, Family Life by Akhil Sharma, Drinking Coffee Elsewhere by ZZ Barker.
Oh, brilliant. People know what you're like, I don't know. Okay, so the next one's a bit more difficult. If you could have a dinner party and invite 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
My mum. It's just my mum. I miss my mum.
Is she cooking?
She's been dead for nearly 10 years.
No.
Oh my God, this is more than 10 seconds. My mum, Amitabh Bachchan, God, I don't know.
You've broken the rules, but I'll get you... What a mixture.
Yeah.
I guess the last one I would give you is, if you were, there's a film about your life, you can choose 3 people to be in the cast. What 3 people would you pick?
Scarlett Johansson would have to play me. I mean, there's no way she's not.
Is that it?
She can play me, she can play my mum. Tilda Swinton can play my dad, I don't know. You know, Dev Patel's looking pretty peng at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, and he's thin. And like as I get older and wider,
and wiser.
oh, I don't know about that.
so the three people, just to recap, are...
So Dev Patel plays me as a child. Scarlett Johansson plays me from like 12 to 60. She can just play all the ages.
Thank you so much, Nikesh. It's really an honour. I know you have to go somewhere else, so thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
It was an honour.
I'm sorry I pooped on Diana, but
Just you appreciate it.
it was good luck.